Good afternoon to all. Welcome to this 34th lecture session of the course Heat Transfer. So, in the last two lectures, we have been covering the fundamentals of radiative heat transfer. Today, we will be talk about radiation exchange between the surfaces. However, in the starting of the lecture, there are some of the fundamentals which are left. First, I will cover those, and then we will discuss the radiative exchange. Okay. So, first, I'll start with the Kirchhoff's law. So this is very important, on the basis of which we will be able to relate the emission and the absorption properties of the surface. Okay, so what I will be doing over here, I have considered one enclosure, and let me consider this enclosure is nothing but our black body. Okay, so this enclosure is a black body, and it it is maintained at temperature Ts. Now within this enclosure, say we are having small sized multiple surfaces having area A1, A2, A3 and so on. Okay, and we are considering that these surfaces A1, A2, A3 etc. are in thermal equilibrium with the black body. So what I am saying, a very important term, that the surfaces which I have considered over here, these are in thermal equilibrium with the black body. So the meaning of this is that if surface temperature of black body is Ts, all these surfaces, individual surfaces A1, A2, A3 will also be having temperature Ts. Okay, because we are saying that the black body and these individual surfaces are in thermal equilibrium with each other. Okay, now let us consider that E1, E2, E3 are nothing but the radiations emitted by these individual surfaces, and G is the irradiation experienced by each of these surfaces. Okay, so now what will be happening if this system is in thermal equilibrium? Under that scenario, I have to write that, say if I write energy balance about A1. Okay, so now if you see, this is our A1, and A1 is emitting radiation at the rate of E1, and it is getting some irradiation from this surrounding black body, say at the rate of G. Now if I consider that alpha 1 is emissivity of the surface, so the fraction of these radiations which will be absorbed by the surface will be nothing but alpha 1 into G. So that will be the only fraction which will be absorbed by this surface. Now one important thing we have to consider, because I told that this is in thermal equilibrium. So if it is in thermal equilibrium, so net rate of heat transfer associated with this surface has to be 0. So if I write E1 is the energy which is leaving this surface, and alpha 1 into G is the energy which is absorbed by the surface. And if energy leaving the surface and energy absorbed being absorbed by the surface are same, then only our thermal equilibrium will establish. So I have to write it equal to 0, because there is no change in temperature of the surface. So under this scenario, I can say that E1 is equal to nothing but alpha 1 into G. Now G is something which is coming from the black body. Okay, so we know that from the black body, what will be happening? This, all the radiations which are coming from the black body will actually fall on this surface at uniform intensity. Okay, so that's why, considering the diffused nature of the black body irradiations, I can say that this G will be equal to the radiations emitted by the black body, because for the case of a black body, whatever the radiations these surfaces are emitting, these completely will be absorbed by black body, and there will not be any reflection. So that's why whatever the irradiation which will be coming from the black body, these will be equal to nothing but the radiations emitted by the black body having temperature Ts. So for a black body, I can say that G will be nothing but equal to Eb into Ts. So that's why I can say that E1 is equal to alpha 1 into Eb corresponding to Ts, and I can simply say that E1 by Eb corresponding to Ts temperature is nothing but equal to alpha 1. Now, if you see the surface, this particular surface is at Ts temperature and this surface is also at Ts temperature. So if I consider that ratio of E1 by Eb, because this is also at Ts temperature, so this ratio I can say that nothing but equal to epsilon 1, because ratio of black body radiations to the actual radiations emitted by a surface at same temperature is nothing but our emissivity. So I can say from here epsilon 1 will be equal to alpha 1. So this particular relationship is something which is called as Kirchhoff's law. So the way I have done it for this one surface, similarly I can do for the other surfaces, and I will be finding this ratio, and ultimately I can say that alpha epsilon 2 equal to alpha 2, similarly epsilon 3 equal to alpha 3, etc. Okay, but one very important thing we have to see over here, the conditions which we assumed is that first is our this surrounding surface, which is actually enclosing our actual surface, is a black body, and what we have, the surface and the surroundings are in thermal equilibrium with each other. Now the way we have proved this epsilon 1 total emissivity equal to alpha 1, in a similar way there are many other proofs available for Kirchhoff's law, which also says that its spectral total emissivity epsilon lambda is also equal to alpha lambda. Okay, similarly there are relations which says that epsilon lambda comma theta equal to alpha lambda comma theta. Okay, so which represents nothing but spectral directional emissivity and spectral directional absorptivity. So now from Kirchhoff's law, we have seen that we can relate our emissivity to that of absorptivity. But now the question comes that we have very stringent conditions in case of the proof of Kirchhoff law, which says that surrounding has to be black body and the surrounding and the surface has to be in thermal equilibrium. And this type of stringent condition will be very difficult to observe in the practical scenarios. So that's why we have to come up with some special type of surfaces which are called as gray surfaces and relate emissivity and absorptivity even by avoiding some of the very stringent conditions which are actually taken in the proof of the Kirchhoff law. Okay, so how this can be done and what are gray surfaces, that let us try to see in this particular slide. Okay, so the first thing is that one proof of Kirchhoff law says that epsilon lambda equal to alpha lambda. So now if I see the fundamental definition of epsilon lambda, that says that integration from 0 to infinity integration from 0 to infinity, integration from 0 to 2 pi, integration from 0 to this infinity will not come, so integration from 0 to 2 pi and integration from 0 to pi by 2 epsilon lambda theta as a function of lambda theta phi and t, that multiplied by cos theta sin theta and d theta d phi. Okay, this divided by integration of, and here I will be having EV lambda also. Okay, or EV lambda will cancel, so I can simply write 0 to 2 pi 0 to pi by 2 cos theta, considering that EV lambda is actually cancelling in both the cases, cos theta, sin theta, d theta, and d phi. And if I equate this to my definition of alpha lambda. So alpha lambda definition is 0 to 2 pi, 0 to pi by 2, alpha lambda theta times intensity of incident radiations times alpha multiplied by cos theta, sin theta, d theta, d phi, and divided by, we will be having total irradiations. So total irradiations will be becoming equal to nothing but I lambda I into cos theta, sin theta, d theta, d phi. So have I written this definition correctly? Is this definition correct? Okay, so now this we have nothing but this side I have this definition of epsilon lambda, and this side I have this definition of alpha lambda. Now can I write these two things equal? So here let us try to see what are the conditions under which these two quantities will be equal. So the very first condition under which it will be equal if our irradiation is diffused. So if irradiation is diffused, under that scenario, I can say that this I lambda I is nothing but independent of theta and phi. So if this is independent of theta and phi, I can take this out of the integration. This I will cancel, and my this integration over here in both the sides will become identical, and I can say that epsilon lambda is equal to alpha lambda. So this is the first condition, that irradiation has to be diffused, and second condition under which this quantity can become same if we are having nothing but a diffused surface. So if we have a diffused surface, for a diffused surface what will be happening? Epsilon lambda theta will be equal to alpha lambda theta, because for a diffused surface there will not be any effect of the direction. So these two quantities will become same. We can take these out of the integration, and ultimately we will be finding that epsilon lambda and alpha lambda can become same. Okay, so these are the two conditions which we are finding if we consider our that spectral emissivity and spectral absorptivity are the same. Why we are trying to see these conditions? Because we are having very stringent conditions in case of the in case of our Kirchhoff's law, which will be difficult to achieve in the practical scenario. So what we are trying to do, from Kirchhoff's law, whatever mathematical formulation is that we are trying to compare, and mathematically we are trying to see that what are the conditions under which these equations will hold true. Okay, so similarly what I can do, so this is based on the spectral emissive power. Now let me do it for the total emissivity equal to total absorptivity. Okay, so can you tell me what is the definition of total emissivity if I have to write mathematical form? Integration from 0 to infinity epsilon lambda into E lambda B into D lambda divided by 0 to infinity E lambda B into D lambda. Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let me write on the right hand side definition of alpha. That will be becoming 0 to infinity alpha lambda into G lambda incident d lambda divided by integration from 0 to infinity g lambda incident into d lambda. Okay, so this is the total incident, and alpha times g lambda is nothing but absorbed portion of the total incident. Okay, so which is absorbed divided by total incident is nothing but our definition of alpha. Okay, so now can you tell me what are the two different conditions under which this equation will hold good? Let me write another simplified form of this equation. I can write this 0 to infinity epsilon lambda into E lambda b d lambda divided by total black body radiations, which is EB, and that is equal to nothing but integration from 0 to infinity, say EB corresponding to some temperature T. Here alpha L G lambda I into d lambda divided by sum of all the wavelengths, say G as at a given temperature. Okay, so now can you tell me what are the conditions under which this equation will hold good? So let me write first condition. If I have a situation that EBT equal to GT and G lambda I as a function of lambda equal to nothing but E lambda I as function of lambda. So if this condition is holding, will this equation will satisfy? Please tell me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the first condition, that if we are having these quantities to be same, then this equation will be true. And second condition is that if our epsilon lambda and alpha lambda are independent of lambda. So if these quantities are independent of lambda, these will come out of the integration, and this ratio of this quantity will become epsilon, and ratio of this quantity will become nothing but alpha. And we have already considered that in our previous condition that epsilon lambda equal to alpha lambda, so these will cancel out. So second condition, if our epsilon lambda and alpha lambda are independent of lambda, then our once again this relation of emissivity equal to absorptivity will hold good. Okay, so this particular surface having these characteristics that epsilon lambda and alpha lambda are independent of lambda, that type of surface is called as nothing but gray surface. Okay, and this assumption of gray surface helps us in considering epsilon equal to lambda for many of the engineering problems, and with the help of which our analysis of radiation exchange between the surfaces become simplified. Okay, but this assumption, whatever we are considering that these are independent of lambda, is very absurd if we are considering it for the entire spectrum of wavelengths. Okay, so for example, one typical representation is given over here. If I consider the complete spectrum from 0 to lambda, and you can see over here that up to wavelength of lambda 1, we are having alpha L nearly equal to 1, and immediate after this lambda 1 wavelength, it is becoming nearly equal to 0. Now, if I have some two radiation spectrums, G lambda 1 over here up to lambda 1, and say G lambda 2 in the range of lambda 2. So here you can see that in one part our absorptivity is very high, and in another part our absorptivity is very low. So if I consider that these epsilon lambda and alpha lambda are independent of lambda for the entire spectrum of radiation, that will be a very absurd assumption and will not hold good. So what we do actually, we first determine a situation something like this. For example, you can see that if for our entire spectrum, say epsilon and alpha spectral parameter varies something like this. So we have now found the bounded limit of lambda 1 and lambda 4, within which we can consider this to be independent of the wavelength, and this is holding nothing but a fixed value. Okay, so now if we have any spectrum of irradiation and any spectrum of emissions within this range of wavelength, under that condition we can consider epsilon lambda equal to alpha lambda equal to some constant value, and which will be independent of lambda, and when that type of assumption is valid, we call the surface to be nothing but a gray surface. Okay, so before taking the assumption of gray surface, we have to first ensure that whatever the spectrum of wavelengths we are considering in our analysis, for that spectrum, whether this variation of these two properties is function of wavelength or independent. So now you can see that within this lambda 3 and 4, which is actually well within the total bound, we can consider here this to be a gray surface, and here also we can consider it to be a gray surface. But if anything is going beyond this limit, then we cannot employ the assumption of gray surface. Okay, so when we are going beyond the limits of gray surface, if we go for non-gray radiations, the analysis of that is very, very complicated and beyond the scope of this particular course. So over here, whatever the radiation exchange we will be studying between different surfaces, we'll be considering that we are working well within the range of the gray spectrum. Okay, so for our further analysis, which I'll be talking in this lecture, radiation exchange between the surfaces, we'll be considering that emissivity and absorptivity are same, and these are independent of the wavelength. Okay, so is this point clear about the gray surface?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let me talk about the spectral distribution of the solar radiations also. So this is something which is actually important from our practical application point of view of radiations, because we see our daily encounter with this particular solar radiation. So you can see this is the spectral irradiation, and we are plotting as a function of the wavelength. So you can see this is our actual solar radiations. So this particular plot is for actual solar radiation. So these are the extra terrestrial radiation. So the meaning of extraterrestrial radiation is that outside our atmosphere, whatever radiations we are receiving from the sun, these are nothing but source pattern, something like this. Okay, and if we consider that sun is nothing but a black body having temperature 5800 Kelvin, and if we employ for this the spectral distribution of a black body, which is nothing but coming from the Planck's equation. So if I apply this Planck's distribution, which is shown by dashed lines, we can see that these extraterrestrial solar radiations nothing but acts like a black body when its temperature is considered equal to be 5800 Kelvin. However, when these radiations enter the surface of the enters into the atmosphere, at that time we are having number of gases present in the atmosphere, and we are having also some aerosol or dust particles, etc., which will be absorbing part of these solar radiations, and overall intensity of the radiations and their spectral distribution will change. So this is the actual distribution of radiations which we actually see into our atmosphere. Okay, so our Earth's surface. So here you can see in the low wavelength region, particularly for lambda less than 0.3 micrometers, all the radiations are actually absorbed by this ozone layer. So as the ozone layer is absorbing, so for alpha less than 0.3, complete are absorbed, and within even up to the range of 0.4 or 0.5 micrometer, ozone has actually absorbed significant portion of the solar radiation. So ozone layer is very, very important, because whatever the radiations we are having in the ultraviolet region, that actually it tries to absorb. So for alpha less than 0.3, it absorbs the entire fraction. However, up to alpha less than 0.4, it absorbs significant portion of the radiations. Then after that, we are having water vapor, carbon dioxide, and then aerosol particles, dust particles, etc., which will be absorbing significant portion of the solar radiations, and our spectrum of the solar radiations will be completely different, which we receive on Earth surface. Okay. Now, when the radiations come from the solar surface, there will be actually different types of scatterings, because in our Earth surface we are having number of dust particles, aerosols. So you can see two types of scatterings happens. One is referred to as Rayleigh scattering, and one is referred to as Mie scattering. So if we are having, say, aerosol particle, if pi d circumference of the aerosol particle divided by wavelength of the radiation is very, very small than 1, in that case there will be actually scattering of light uniformly in all the directions, and that type of scattering is called as nothing but a Rayleigh scattering. And in case of Rayleigh scattering, significant portions of the radiations will be actually irradiated back into towards the surface of the sun or outside the atmosphere. And if our ratio of pi d by lambda is nearly equal to 1, under that scenario, what will be happening? That maximum portion of the irradiations will be happening in a direction where incident ray is coming. So in that case, we will not be having much loss of the energy. So you can see over here that in actual practice, if we see, this is some direct ray which has reached the Earth surface without going through any scattering, and outside this, whatever radiations we are seeing, these are nothing but scattered radiation. So it means whatever the energy which we receive on surface of the Earth, that is actually sum of direct and scattered energy. So now many of the times what we do, this scattered is very difficult to analyze. So scattered portion we consider as nothing but diffuse approximation, and this is our direct radiation. So total energy whatever we receive, that is sum of scattered plus direct, and this scattered contribution varies from 10% to 100%. For example, if we are having a, say, complete cloudy day, lot of dust particles, pollution, etc., so in that scenario we will be receiving complete radiations on the Earth's surface because of the scattering only. And if we are having a perfectly clean day, in that case the contribution of scattered portion will be only 10%. Okay, so this is just about the relationship of our radiative heat transfer with our surroundings, whatever we see in terms of solar radiations. Okay, is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Now let us talk about one very, very important concept, which is called as view factor, and sometimes this is also called as configuration factor, or even it is also known as shape factor. So there are many names for this particular factor. So basically, what is the meaning of view factor? View factor is a very important parameter for determining the radiation exchange between the two surfaces. Okay, so for example, here I have considered that I have a surface of area AI and temperature Ti, and another surface of area AJ and TJ. So if I have to find out the radiation exchange between these two, then this importance of this view factor will come. So basically, view factor represents the ratio of fraction of radiations emitted by this surface is received by the another surface divided by total radiations emitted. Okay, so let us try to find out its mathematical formulation. So that we will do with the help of an elemental area. So over this I have considered a small elemental area dAi, and say its normal direction is actually Ni. Okay, and some radiation is going out of this, and at a distance of r we have some another surface dAj, elemental surface, whose normal vector is like this, and we are having this theta I angle made by this solid ray with the outward normal of surface I, and theta j as angle made by this ray with the outward normal of surface j. Now, if you see in terms of solid angle, so the radiation will be leaving something like this, and this d omega ji is our solid angle. So J is actually designating that radiations are falling on surface J, and I designates that this radiation is coming from surface I. Okay. Now, if you see, this is the elemental area dAj, which is making an angle theta j with the direction of the ray. So if I have to find out the perpendicular area, because when we define the view factor, we have to consider target area normal to the direction of ray. So if I have to take normal projection of this area, that will be coming out to be nothing but dAj cos theta j, and r is this radius. So from here I can write definition of view factor d omega j to I as nothing but equal to dAj cos theta j divided by r square. Okay. And now let me consider that through this elemental area, whatever the total radiation is going out and received by the surface J is, say, dq I to j. Okay, so dq I to j represents the radiations which are emitted by the surface and are received by the surface J. Okay, so if I have to find out the value of this dq I to j, can you tell me what will be its magnitude? From our earlier lectures, earlier 2 lectures, can you relate what will be value of dq I to j? Any one of you? Can you relate? Okay, so dq I to j will be equal to nothing but intensity of emitted plus reflected radiations, because the radiation energy which will be leaving from the surface, that will be nothing but sum of emitted plus reflected radiation. So intensity IE plus R multiplied with the radiations which are leaving from this area, we have to consider the projected area perpendicular to this ray. So projected area of this surface will become nothing but dAi into cos theta I. Okay, and now I have to also consider nothing but my view factor, because definition of intensity says heat transfer per unit area per unit view factor. So here I have to consider d omega j to I. Okay, so is this definition correct? Here, why I am not considering d lambda? Because I am considering the total heat transfer over the entire spectrum of wavelengths. So is this definition correct? Are you not going through the lectures? Please tell me, is this correct or
Yes,
wrong?
sir.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so now let me substitute the value of d omega j to I over here, which I have written definition over here. So it will be becoming IE plus R times dAi cos theta I into dAj cos theta j divided by R square. Okay, so now if I have to find out the total amount of heat transfer I to j through the entire area and which is received by this entire area Aj. So in that case, what I have to do, because I have these two differential area elements, so I have to do integration over entire area. So Ai Aj into I E plus R cos theta I cos theta j divided by R square into dAi and dAj. Okay, so this is our entire heat transfer which is leaving surface I and falling on surface J. Okay, now we know that radiosity of a surface, say J, can be written as, if we are considering over the total hemispherical radiosity, that I can write as nothing but equal to pi times intensity of E plus R. Okay, So this is the relation of total radiosity which is leaving the surface I. Okay, if we consider total hemispherical radiosity, so Ji will be equal to pi times IE plus R. So this proof I have discussed in the first lecture on radiative heat transfer. So let me substitute this definition. Let me replace this IE plus R with the radiosity over here. So if I replace this, I will be finding Qi to J equal to integral AIAJ Ji divided by pi r square. Okay, because I can write J divided by pi into cos theta I cos theta J dAI dAj. So this is my total heat transfer which is leaving the surface I and falling on surface J. Now if I have to define view factor is given by symbol F. If I have to define F from I to J, so F from I to J will represent the fraction of radiations received by surface J which are leaving surface I divided by total radiations emitted. So total radiations emitted will be nothing but radiosity multiplied by area, total area of the surface. Okay, so is this point clear? So if I apply this definition and if I substitute Qi to J, I will be finding Fij as nothing but equal to 1 by Ai into integral of AIAJ, and Ji will cancel out, and inside I will get cos theta I cos theta J divided by pi r square into dAI dAj. Okay, so this is something which is called as view factor of surface I to J. In a similar way, if I have to determine view factor from J to I, that will be equal to 1 by Aj into integral AIAJ cos theta I cos theta J divided by pi r square into dAI dAj. Okay. Now, one important point, you can see that this integral on the, if I take this area to the left hand side, this integral on right hand side is equal for both the cases. So I can say that Fij into Ai equal to Fji into Aj. So we can say that view factor holds the rule of reciprocity. Okay, so this reciprocals of view factors with the area ratios is actually holding good. So view factor holds the rule of reciprocity. So till this point it is clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let us try to see if we have to find out the view factor for some different complicated situations. Then there are actually two different approaches. So one of the approach is this, where we have to go for exact mathematical details and use this integral equation to find out the view factor. And there is one another simplified approach by just observing and applying some simplified relations of the view factor, we can actually calculate. So I have one enclosure. Say this enclosure is having n number of surfaces, and each of the surface is actually isothermal, having temperature say T1, T2, Ti, Tj, Tn, etc. Okay. So now in this situation, if I have to find out the view factor, say view factor of any surface I or say any surface 1, so what I will be finding, the radiations leaving from this surface 1 can go to any of these surfaces of the enclosure. Okay, so there will be some view factor from 1 to, it will be from 1 to 1, because there may be some situation that radiations are leaving from the surface are falling on itself only. So some fraction of radiations may fall on the surface itself. So we will be having some view factor from 1 to 1, plus we will be having some fraction from 1 to 2, so on up to like this 1 to I, and this will be say 1 to n. Okay, and as I told you that view factor is nothing but a fraction, so whatever the sum of total fractions we will be having, that will be nothing but equal to 1. So is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is called as nothing but summation rule of view factors. Now if you see, this is something which I have written for one surface. Similarly, I can write for second surface f22 plus so on up to like this f2n. So in this situation, if I have n surfaces, can you tell me how many total view factors I will be having? Total number of view factors?
Sir, n.
10. So I am generalizing this situation. Say I am considering it to be n. Now can you tell me, for enclosure of n surfaces, how many view factors I will be having? Any one of you can guess?
n square.
Yes, correct. For example, for first surface, I have n entries. Similarly, for second surface, n entries. Likewise, I'll be having n entries for nth surface. So I'll be getting a matrix of view factors, and total number of view factors for this enclosure will become nothing but n square. Okay. Now, it is very difficult always to calculate all these n square view factors. So some of the view factors we have to calculate from the reciprocity and this summation rule, and some of the view factors we have to determine. Now we have to decide how many view factors we can calculate and how many view factors we have to determine. Okay. So can you tell me from summation rule how many view factors I can calculate? Please tell me. See, based on the summation rule, how many equations I will be getting?
N equations.
N equations. So it means using the n equations, I can determine n variables. Okay. So calculations based on summation rule will give us n view factors. Now, can you tell me, based on the reciprocity rule, how many view factors we can calculate? Can I write it like this?
Summation till n.
Sorry?
Yes, sir, this one.
It will be n into n minus 1 by 2, because when we are applying the reciprocity rule, it will be acting in a pair. So because of the pair, we will be having n into n minus 1, and if we have applied on a surface, for the reverse also it will be holding the same rule. So that's why we will be having divided by 2. Okay. So calculations based on reciprocity rule, we can have n into n minus 1 by 2. So that's why now the view factors or number of view factors we have to determine. Can you tell me how many? Number of view factors to determine. This will be equal to n square is total required minus out of which n we can calculate using the principle of summation rule, and n into n minus 1 by 2 we can calculate using the principle of reciprocity. So finally we have to determine nothing but n into, so if you do this algebraic manipulation, you will be finding n into n minus 1 by 2. So these are the total number of view factors which we have to determine. Okay. Now let us take an example of two surfaces. So say this is my surface number 1, okay, a spherical surface, and this outside is surface number 2. Now if I have to find out the different view factors associated with these, so how to see? So what is my value of n?
2.
2. So it means how many view factors I have to determine? N into n minus 1 by 2, which will be equal to 2 into 1 by 2, so 1. So I can only determine one view factor, and remaining 3 I can calculate based on nothing but summation rule and reciprocity rule. So can you tell me what view factors I will be having? 4 numbers. One I will be having F11, another F12, then F21 and F22. So these are the total 4 view factors which are associated with this phenomenon. Okay. Now let us consider if we have a plane surface. So the radiations leaving from a plane surface, can these fall on the same surface? If we are having a plane surface, any radiation is leaving from this surface, can it fall back on the same surface? Say another situation, I have something like this. This is how radiations are leaving. So this is a concave surface. And third situation is convex. Now please tell me, for which of the surface, which of these 3 surfaces radiations can, leaving from the same surface, can fall on the same?
Concave.
The concave. Concave, huh?
Yes, concave it can fall, and for plane and convex it will not fall. Okay, so it means for plane and convex I can say that Fii will be equal to 0. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So when I have this inner spherical surface, for the inner spherical surface, can I say that F11 is equal to 0? Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now can I apply summation rule? F11 plus F12 equal to 1?
Yes, sir.
So from here I will get F12 equal to 1. So 2 view factors I have. One I have actually determined, F11 equal to 0, and second view factor I have calculated from the summation rule. Now how to calculate third and fourth? So for third and fourth, can I say A2 into F21 equal to A1 into F12?
Yes, sir.
So from here I will be finding F21 is nothing but equal to A1 divided by A2 into F12. So this is the third relationship we have found from calculation only, and now I can apply fourth equation, F21 plus F22 equal to 0. So if I apply this equation from here, I can determine value of F22. Okay, is this point clear?
Right.
So it means for the 2 surfaces, 1 we have actually determined, and rest 3 we have calculated from the rules which we have obtained. Okay, so now
F1 to 1 plus F22 should be equal to 1, right?
sorry,
I've written F21 plus F22 equal to 0.
oh sorry, yes, it has to be 1. I have written 1. Yeah, it will be equal to 1. Now the point is, for number of, the way I have actually used this configuration, for a number of simple configurations, we can just simply apply these observations, visual inspection based observations, in order to determine the view factors. Okay. However, if we are having very complicated situations, for that we have to actually go with these integral equations which I have described over here, and after that actually we can determine the view factors. Okay, so you can do the practice based on the observation for simplified geometries, and in the subsequent slides I am showing some of the view factors for very simplified situations which are actually calculated using the integral relations which are given earlier. Okay, so here we are having 2 parallel rectangles I and J, and spacing between the 2 is actually L, and their size is X and Y. So depending upon the y by L and x by L ratio. These are the different graphs which shows their view factors. Okay, and this is estimated using the integral relations given earlier. Similarly, this is for two cylindrical discs. Then this is for two rectangular faces having common edge. So like that, you will be finding number of tables and graphs for complicated situations in your textbook. However, for simplified geometries, we can actually just based on visual inspections determine the view factor. So please have a practice of simplified geometries based on the observations. Okay. Now, let me talk about another very important topic. So now we have understood that if we are having the total radiations leaving the surface, how much fraction of that radiation will be falling. Okay, so that we can determine with the help of view factor. So once we have this knowledge, now we can actually move towards understanding the radiation exchange between the surface. So before talking about between surfaces, let us first discuss about radiation exchange at a given surface only. Okay, so let us consider we are having one enclosure. Once again, this enclosure is having multiple faces, and we are considering one of the face of this enclosure, which is at isothermal temperature Ti, having area Ai, and epsilon I is its actually emissivity. So you can see that Ji is the total radiosity which is associated with this surface, and Gi is the irradiations which are incident on this surface. So now the net effect of this Ji and Gi is something which we are calling as Qi, the net heat transfer associated with this surface. So now can you tell me what will be the value of Qi? If Qi is the net heat transfer associated with the surface, it will be equal to nothing but Ai times, Ai is the area of the face, into Ji. Ji is total radiosity minus rho I into Gi. Have I written it correctly? Sorry, not rho I have to write it alpha I into Gi. Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
So Ji represents total energy leaving, and alpha I into Gi represents the energy absorbed by this surface. Okay. Now we know that Ji will be equal to nothing but, so this equation is actually corresponding to this particular figure. So you can see this particular figure is nothing but depiction of this equation. Now let us see that Ji, we know that it will be equal to Ei. Ei is the radiations emitted plus radiations reflected. So reflected will be equal to rho I into Gi. So if we apply and substitute this into our main equation, Qi will become Ai into Ji, sorry, in place of Ji, I have to write Ei plus rho I into Gi minus alpha I into Gi. Correct? Can I write it like this?
Yes, sir.
So this second representation is actually showing all these parameters. So you can see that alpha I Gi is the fraction absorbed, rho I Gi is the absorbed is the reflected portion, and Ei Ai is something which is actually emitted by the surface. So the net balance of all these will be nothing but equal to our Qi. Okay. Now let us try to in some other way using this equation only. So as I have written that Ji is equal to Ei plus, can I write for opaque surface in place of rho I 1 minus alpha I? Can I write for opaque surface rho I equal to 1 minus alpha I?
Sir.
Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and let me use over here the assumption of gray surface also. So this EI, I can write epsilon I into E black body I, plus if I use the assumption of gray surface, I can write alpha I is nothing but equal to epsilon I. So 1 minus epsilon I into GI. So from here, if I calculate GI will become JI minus epsilon I into EBI divided by 1 minus epsilon I. Okay. So now this value of GI, we will be substituting into our equation number 1. So if I substitute this into equation number 1, I will be getting QI equal to AI into JI minus, in place of alpha, I will use epsilon. So JI minus epsilon I into, in place of GI, I will write like this. JI minus epsilon I into EBI divided by 1 minus epsilon I. So have I written it correctly?
Yes, sir.
Now let us do one thing. Let us take this common epsilon I divided by 1 minus epsilon I. So if I take this common, I will be finding JI divided by epsilon I into 1 minus epsilon I minus of epsilon I think 1 epsilon I am getting extra over here. Let me see.
Sir, epsilon I, you have taken common, right?
Yes.
Sir, in
Exactly.
first equation where you have written QI equals to AI JI minus alpha, GI should not come. I think GI should be there instead of alpha GI because we are taking total.
No, it will be alpha GI only. Can you tell me why?
Sir, we are not taking the fraction there. We have to take the fraction of the.
Yes. So basically, when you are finding the net energy balance, what you have to do? You have to consider how much is absorbed by the surface. Okay. So GI is total irradiated, but out of that GI, you have to consider only the portion which is absorbed by surface, because we are not considering that this surface is a black surface and absorbing all the radiations. Fine.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so some part of this is actually being absorbed by the surface, so that's why I have to use alpha. Okay, so if I take epsilon I by 1 minus epsilon I as common, so I'll be finding JI by epsilon I into 1 minus epsilon I and minus of JI and then minus of epsilon I into EBI, correct?
Yes.
So if you solve it further, you will be finding that QI will become nothing but equal to JI minus, or it will become nothing but equal to EBI minus JI divided by 1 minus epsilon I divided by AI epsilon I. Okay, so this will be the final total heat transfer associated with the surface once you solve this equation after doing just small algebraic manipulations. Okay, so you can relate this equation to this particular circuit over here. So here we are having EB1 as one potential, J1 as another potential, and in between these two, this is our resistance 1 minus epsilon I by epsilon I AI, and this type of resistance is actually called as nothing but surface resistance. Okay, so this is called as surface resistance because we are talking about only a single surface, and within the single surface, this emission and radiosity in between these two, there will be some resistance because of the absorption and reflection. and emission. So that part is actually called as nothing but surface resistance. Okay, and the total amount of heat transfer associated will be linked with black body radiations minus radiosity divided by this surface resistance, which is a function of the emissivity of the surface. Okay, now if we consider that we are having a black body, for a black body this resistance, surface resistance, will become 0, and if the surface resistance is 0, under that scenario we will be finding that radiosity will be equal to basically the black body emission, because whatever irradiations which will be coming on the black body, these will be completely absorbed by it. Okay, another important thing we can conclude from this equation is that when we are having area of the face which is approaching to infinity, means if we are having very large area of an enclosure face in comparison to its other faces, in that case also what will be happening, in that case also we will be finding that this resistance will become small and that surface will behave like nothing but a black body. So it doesn't mean that it will be having perfect characteristics of black body, but what will be happening, we will be considering that for a large surface there will be large number of reflections which will be actually completely absorbing the radiations. Okay, till this point it is clear.
Yes.
Now I will stop over here and we will have further discussion in our next lecture.